This is TWiT.
What do you think?
Very excited about some of the new features. I am very impressed with how Apple has worked toward integrating AI at the system level across the different apps. And I think that that's going to be an opportunity for, I think it was Oprah who said, 1 billion phones in people's pockets, y'all.
Right.
That's access to generative AI for those people who use that in a way that, as Apple called it, AI for the rest of us. It was important to show the experiences of using the AI versus just, here's a tool, see what you can do with it. Actually showing some real life instances of how the tech can be helpful. Plus, I mean, there was just a lot, honestly. I'm impressed with how much they packed in.
Yeah.
I will say a little underwhelmed with the updates to Vision OS. There was what I thought there was going to be a lot more about Vision OS and Vision OS 2 to kind of try to make that product even more exciting.
I think Apple's going to start to distance itself from Vision.
You think so?
Yeah. But I've thought that all along. The most important thing from my point of view is Apple was faced with a real challenge today. They had to respond to what Google, Microsoft, and OpenAI have been doing, and yet still keep it Apple, still keep it private and secure. And I think they threaded that needle. I think they showed, in fact, that they've learned from the stumbles from Google and Microsoft and OpenAI, and they've realized that what they really are is a product company. And they productize this in a unique way that will be, in the long run, very good for them, because notice, this really locks you into an Apple ecosystem. And all along, you know, people have been saying, well, this is free. How it's going to cost them a lot to do this. It probably is. I think Apple's willing to spend a lot of money to have a position here. They have to spend a lot of money to have a position here and be positioned for future products. Notice the enhanced capabilities of the AirPods Pro. You know, they didn't mention AirPod Max at all, or regular AirPods. It was all about AirPods Pro. I think going forward, Apple, you know, Vision Pro and spatial computing are going to be, I think, a little bit of a detour, but there's some value to them from that platform in trying new ways to take the phone, the laptop, and the tablet into new realms. They're going to have to take AI with them. Very smart to brand it. Apple Intelligence is still AI, isn't it? But it's not artificial. It's Apple. And I think that's what Steve Jobs would have done too. That's exactly what he would have done too. So I think this is probably very good news for Apple. Now, the proof is in the pudding. We won't see these tools in action for a while. And will they live up to the hype is a big question. You know, Siri did not live up to her hype all along.
No.
So they've got to make this stuff work. If it works like they showed, that's always a big if. You know, when Google shows stuff at Google I/O, you already know it's not going to work like they show it. Apple's a little bit better at that. If it lives up to its promise, I think they are incredibly well positioned, better than any other platform. Look at the stumble with recall that Microsoft had. Yeah, they pulled back and they're going to make it more secure. But the problem is people don't trust Microsoft. They already got a black mark. They completely stumbled on that. Look at how Apple has handled essentially the same offering, and they've handled it, I think, very well. There will not be any pushback on privacy or security.
Yeah, and that's the thing too, right? Because recall also an on-device feature.
Yeah.
But people didn't like how it sounded, how it seemed. And yeah, it's kind of wild to see a lot of those same features being suggested in a different way. I think it helps that they didn't say, we're taking screenshots every 5 seconds or whatever it was.
Right.
That it's more of just, this has a general awareness of what's going on your device and can pull from the mail, can pull from this, can pull all these things together. And then, honestly, it's about usefulness. I think with recall, where they failed was showing what it does and how it can be helpful to a person. There wasn't enough of that. It was just saying, here's a feature that we made, and it will help you recall things. that's not enough. Apple said, look, you were in a conversation with your mom, and instead of having to look at the email and then remember to go to the calendar and then go back to the text message and scroll back 3 times, you talk to Siri, and Siri's going to show you things right there on the screen. Mind you, and then at the same time, it's going to do everything else. There was probably, if we go back, more Sherlocking in this WWDC than I think we've seen in WWDCs in a long time.
That struck me too. Apple's going to do so much stuff. Look at Notes. Notes has suddenly become it was really not Calculator alone. It was Notes and Calculator. And Notes has suddenly become the tool for a student. Unbelievable. They showed some AAA gaming. Ubisoft said, we've developed an engine for Metal, and we're gonna roll it out everywhere. And Apple has a really good story there because Apple's on the same silicon platform on all its devices.
So suddenly you're able to release on the iPad at the same time as you release on the Mac. That's very clever. But that takes time.
Totally agree with you. They focused on fun stuff you can do with this. They didn't focus on the machine is so smart. The machine is almost intelligent.
Yeah, and it's everybody else is providing this blank canvas and saying you can do everything with it. Apple's not doing that. They're saying here are some specific things that are just iterations on what you already do.
They're very careful not to say AGI.
Yeah,
this is where everybody else has gone wrong. Right. Mm-hmm. This is what's really
kind
scary.
Of freaks people out, right?
Yeah. They go, I don't want that. Apple's very friendly, fuzzy. Warm, cozy.
Look at these cute little emoji you can make.
One of our Discord's Lockmaster says, Apple Sherlocked AI. I think that's true. Apple said this is how AI should be. And I will be very interested to see, but I think most consumers will go, that's fine. I'm good with that. In fact, I'm going to get the new iPhone because my old iPhone won't do it.
Yeah.
There'll be, I imagine some people saying, hey, how come not on the iPhone 14, and probably technically it could do it on the iPhone 14, but Apple's very smart. They're saying, nope, you're going to have the newest iPhone.
Especially because they want you to do as much on device before the system says, I've got to punt this to the servers, which they're calling private cloud compute.
Very smart. Gurman, to his credit, got everything.
Yeah.
We didn't see anything we didn't expect, but what we did see that we didn't know ahead of time was how cleverly and smoothly Apple would position all this in complete contrast to what Google, Microsoft, and OpenAI.
I think it was a bit of a masterclass in marketing and in just communication in general, because if I could go back and just watch the part of the video where Craig Federighi lays out the 4 different categories that they're covering and goes through it, and I love it, was like, we're going to say what's happening, we're going to provide just a little taste, then we're going to talk about how we're doing it before we give you these experiences that you're going to be very excited about. It was all laid out. It was what was it? It was capabilities, and then architecture, and then experiences. And I thought that was so well done to make sure that you felt comfortable as you rolled into what was going to be possible.
They showed some beautiful stuff with Apple Watch. They didn't really compare how Apple Watch or talk about Apple Watch and AI, but I think a lot of things like training load will be very much AI driven.
I'm sure. And also the fact that the glances are going to be updated intelligently and in real time. So it will show you different glances based on what you're doing. And so I think that's going to be all. And again, that's what Tim Cook pointed out. We've been doing this forever. Now we're doing. Also the redesign. He
did say that, didn't he?
Yeah.
We've always had this stuff built in. We just we're cagey. We're coy about it.
Those redesigned photos faces, absolutely all the AI stuff. Providing you with intelligent choices and giving you text that looks great. I don't know. As you and I both mentioned, we don't ever really use those. Those faces.
I like the info.
I like as much information as possible.
I think that they have very much proven that they are brilliant marketers, that they know their audience very well, that they know how to lock people into Apple products. And I think they're showing at this point, I think unsaid is there's a significant investment. This is not going to be cheap. A significant investment in this stuff building new servers, centers, I presume paying OpenAI and perhaps Google for these services. But they want to be well positioned for future products. And I think they own this. I think they did Sherlock AI. I think that is really the bottom line here. And it's as you said, a masterclass in how to do it. Well, that's the Apple WWDC. We will not cover the platforms talk, but they are going to do that after lunch. You might want to watch that if you are interested in the details, the nitty-gritty. Certainly developers will want to watch this. And I think it's going to be very interesting for developers because I think they're going to say we have to use these APIs. We have to build this in.
The keynote did not touch on a lot of the APIs, or if it did, it just briefly touched on them. That is where the State of the Union is really going to come forth and say, here's how you'll be able to use all of this, how you'll be able to integrate it. And the great thing is and this is what Apple has always tried to encourage, is for developers to, as much as possible, make use of the kind of default built-in aspects. Because as they showed on stage, if your text entry areas of your app are standard, then the writing tools for generative will all just
be
work.
There.
It'll all just work.
That's one thing Apple's always done well from the very first Apple Macintosh in 1984 is they've had these great APIs built into ROM that developers say, well, that makes it very easy to make a text editor, for instance, and then they just get whatever the features Apple adds to that those ROMs down the road. Apple's very, very good at that. It's hard sometimes to get developers to follow your lead. Vision OS hasn't really drawn in a lot of developers.
Right. Interesting to see how much they talked about enterprise there. I think they might be a little bit going the way of the HoloLens.
That's exactly what Microsoft
focusing
did.
toward that enterprise.
Yeah. So it's not always a given that developers will listen and say, oh yeah, I'm going to do that. I think here, if you have an Apple app of any kind, you are going to make sure that you work with those APIs. You're going to want that. It'll be really interesting to see how, because that's a lot of this is going to rely on everything working, not just the Apple apps, but everything working with the new Siri.
You want to have your app feeding information into, what did they call it? Specifically, it was the personal context, but it wasn't that. There was a name for semantic index.
Yes.
You want to have your app feeding into that semantic index so that stuff that is happening in your app from your users gets sent to Siri's awareness or Apple Intelligence awareness, because otherwise you're going to get left out, and you don't want to be left out.
Yeah. Apple just Sherlocked AI and made it theirs, and really, actually, an impressive feat of juggling. I thought this was going to be a very big challenge for them. Stock market's not quite warmed up to it yet. Maybe some profit taking. I don't know. The Apple stock is down a few percentage points, almost 2%. But you know what? I think tomorrow the stock will come back with a bang, because I think investors are going to realize all that money you've been pouring into AI, you should really be pouring into Apple Intelligence. I think they did it right.
If you enjoyed what you just saw, well, there's more of it. It's all over at TWiT.tv, or just click in the description and you can get links to this very episode.